Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith. We are here today doing a trial run. Joe is in the background helping me out with this. So for those of you, once you find us here, okay, Joe, I got your private chat. That's good. Once you find us here, this again, like I said, this is a trial run. So if you want to send questions, we are trying to see how all this works. If you're going to send us a question, say where you're sending it from so I can see where they're coming from. Or you probably, there's nobody here yet, so we'll see how this goes. I guess we'll just kind of have to wait for, oh, now there's 3 people in here. Okay, so who is here? If you're here, say the word. Say who you are, please. If you're willing, say who you are, and where you're watching us, so we can see what is actually working. Yeah. And if you have questions, this is like we're just taking questions here. So this, like I said, this is a trial run for those of you who are here now. This is a trial run of our new streaming software. So what we are trying to figure out is where the chats or questions come from. We're trying to okay, Lilium's on YouTube. Cool, thank you. Oh, and it does have a little logo there saying where it comes from. Okay, so we have that. That's good. Joe's on YouTube. Oh, Mitzi, Mitzi's watching on Facebook. Okay, so cool. So we see the chats on Facebook too. Now here's there's a little icon down at the bottom. If you guys have any questions, you can submit them, and I'll check them. Yeah, Mitzi, the cool thing was it actually has a little logo on your avatar where it tells me where it's coming from. So this is the stuff we didn't know before. There's a little thing down at the bottom, Joe, that says all except Facebook profile. Oh, it says we currently do not support sending messages to Facebook groups, Facebook profiles, and LinkedIn accounts. So I can't send chats to those. But I can send chats to everywhere except my Facebook profile, I guess. Okay. So and I couldn't put it on LinkedIn, which is, oh no. Okay, so we got our first question from Patricia. Let me just double check that I don't miss anything. Okay, Patricia was saying, I heard a previous podcast about coping with pain. I rarely have pain, but wondered what you thought of the lidocaine patches. So, okay. Joe, can you do the split screen where I have or should I do it? Wait, let me do it. Let me share screen. I understand. What are we looking at? Screen 2. Wait. Hold on. I'm trying to share screen. Allow. Oh, there we go. Okay, Joe, if you want to take your video out of there. Awesome. Okay, so this is the cool thing. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we wanted to do, folks, was so I can show you what I'm looking at on the screen. So one of the things about lidocaine, there's some issues with lidocaine that you don't want to be, like, if you needed it just for a temporary thing, that would be one thing. But if you start, lidocaine toxicity to muscles and peripheral or neuraxial nerves can occur locally at the site of injection. There is some, let me see, there was some DNA toxicity somewhere. Lidocaine-induced systemic toxicity. Let's look up chronic. There was somebody showed me somewhere that it was genotoxic, as in toxic to the genome. Let me see if I can search for that. See, so they're definitely looking into the genotoxicity of it. Lidocaine has not been associated with cancer in humans, despite 8 decades of its therapeutic use. Its metabolite is a rat carcinogen. There was something. Anyway, what I'm saying is you don't want to be using an anesthetic. I mean, the thing you have to know, lidocaine and procaine and cocaine are all in the same family of drugs. One of the things people, I learned this over the years about anesthetics. One of the things that when people do cocaine, their face gets numb because it's an anesthetic. So these are all related. So if you were one to think that cocaine's not good for you, and we have pretty good evidence that long-term use of cocaine is not good for you, we can probably assume that things in the same family that make you numb and do these things are not good for you either. So I would definitely be working on not having to use the patches. Anything that is changing your pain is changing, it's forcing something to change in your body. So I'd be careful of that. The biggest thing, actually, I was at the bank the other day and one of the tellers was talking to me about her husband's pain. And she then starts to say that she's got, her husband has lots of chronic pain and lower back pain, sacroiliac pain. And I didn't want to spend too long there talking to her, but if you're eating nightshades, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant, those will all increase whatever pain you have in your body or wherever you would tend to have pain. They will make you hurt more. The more you eat them, the more you'll hurt. So that's always a big thing. And then vitamin A does actually make you more sensitive to pain. I think I've been over that. Vitamin A increases it decreases the amount of you need to send at the pain receptors of the nerves. So, okay. So let me just see. So is there anybody from Twitter on here right now? We got 14 people on. Okay, so Pierre's always real helpful. He says, you have 2 other instances of this YouTube live stream saying, quote, waiting for nutrition detective. One is from 3:21 p.m. and the other is from 3:22 p.m. when it's 3:20. Oh, those were the ones that we were going to do, Pierre. We set up some and then I abandoned them. And then I guess they're still showing on YouTube, so we'll just have to keep that in mind that happens. So that's what I got on the lidocaine. John was asking, could the bile in the blood just be cellular trash or cellular bile and not liver bile? Yeah, it would be some of both, I would think. Oh yeah, I could do the highlighting. Thanks, Joe. But yeah, obviously it's if there's bile in the blood, if the cells do make bile, which they do. Here, let me go and let me do a quick search on that. Let's do. So they normally talk about it in the liver, but on one of the past so they're actually saying here the bile duct epithelium actually makes bile. The bile ducts make bile. I didn't even remember that. Here it is. In rodents, it comprises less than 10% of the total bile production, whereas in humans, it may account for as much as 1/3 of daily bile production. So your bile ducts make bile. This makes sense now as to why lactoferrin, which repairs and increases the turnover, increases the new cells in the bile duct epithelium. It makes sense why it can increase bile production so much. Because if a third of it comes from the bile duct epithelium and we're fixing that with something like lactoferrin very rapidly, that now makes where the bile is coming from, that makes a lot more sense with lactoferrin. So we know the bile duct cells make bile. I'm just looking to see. Let me go to PubMed itself. I find that DuckDuckGo is actually a better search engine for finding stuff on PubMed than PubMed's own search engine is. I don't want to waste too much time on this. But remember, you guys probably remember, that's why you're asking the question, John, because I showed this before, that certain cells can actually make bile as well. Let's do bile acids. Just not remembering which we had found before. I don't want to, but yeah, we remember. So, but the thing about, there's a couple of ways that the bile would go directly into the blood. One would be the cells, like the peripheral cells, the cells anywhere that's not in the liver making bile acids. Now, the nice thing about that is that would probably be a lot less toxins with it than are stored in the liver. So that bile might be a little cleaner, if we could say that. But if you have what's called intrahepatic cholestasis, which is where hold on, I'll have to expand on this thought. If you had intrahepatic cholestasis, so cholestasis, toxic bile leakage in the liver itself, then it would go straight into the blood. Because the liver cells, it's like the cells think of it as if your drain was plugged in your sink and you start filling it up with water, and it just, and so it's not escaping down the drain, and it just comes over your counter and leaks into your bloodstream, if you will, onto your floors. So intrahepatic cholestasis goes straight into the blood, but that would be the really toxic bile from all the stuff that's stored in the liver. And then there would be the cellular toxicity of the cellular bile that just goes straight into the blood. Now, here was a thought that your question just got me going on. And people will say, why does being out in the sun seem to cause a bile dump? See where I'm going with this? What does the sun hit? The sun hits peripheral cells. The sun hits your skin cells. So what if that is when people say, they're out in the sun too long and then they don't feel good, that it's the bile being produced by the peripheral cells, like the skin cells, that's then going into the bloodstream and then causing people to feel bad until the liver can then filter out all of the toxins and the bile coming from those cells dumping it. So, yeah. So that may be why heat, as an example, or cold, because you have to think, like, cold does tend to slow down bile production. Cold slows down everything. Like in Chinese medicine, they say that's why you don't put ice on injuries. You don't eat cold food because cold is dead. It is generally better for us. We are warm-blooded. Makes things easier if we stay warm. But if you get hot does seem to cause bile dumping, and so does sun exposure. And that could be the trigger, because your internal temperature doesn't always necessarily change that much. Anyway, that's just a thought. So, hello, Michael from Toronto. So yeah, Pierre, I'll make sure that I don't have those extra. That's a good point, Pierre. Okay, so John is asking, could gout be caused by too much bile in the blood? If there's anybody from Twitter here, that's what I'm trying to see. If any of you guys follow me on Twitter, if you could go to Twitter and maybe see if you can see if my channel is live streaming right now, that would be helpful. And if you could let us know in the comments. We know very, very well that we are showing on YouTube. We are showing on Facebook. So again, for anybody coming here later, this is a trial run. We're just seeing how this is all working. And so we're going to do some questions. I'm going to do questions like I always do, just as a bonus for you guys coming and helping us out. Okay, so we have, could gout be caused by too much bile in the blood? Yeah, let me go do this. Let me go do Mawson gout vitamin A. Mawson wrote 2 papers on this. There's this one and this one. So, see now here's he's actually showing mainly with impaired renal function in the etiopathogenesis of gouty arthritis. So, xanthine oxidase, if you didn't know, you need molybdenum to run that. You need molybdenum to run several of your major detox enzymes. Xanthine oxidase is one. Xanthine oxidase is one of them. Aldehyde oxidase is one of them. Aldehyde dehydrogenase is one of them. Pretty important. So let me see if he did a bigger. Oh, I got to go find. Okay, so y'all want to learn how to find the whole paper? Which one is later? Which one? 91, and we have 84. So let's go find this one. PubMed ID. You get the PubMed ID. You go to Sci-Hub.st. Put in your PubMed ID. And here's the whole paper. Now, I don't know if back in 91, Mawson was talking about the liver and bile and vitamin A and retinoic acid connection. I don't have time, I'm not going to read the whole paper here, but let's just do a quick search. See if he talks about liver. He does talk. I posted on Twitter just the other day about retinol binding protein, and if you don't have enough retinol binding protein, you have too much free retinol floating around. Free retinol by itself is toxic as heck. Retinoic acid still the champ, but there's 23 mentions in here. Let's go find them. No, not much on cholestasis back in this paper from Mawson, but I would assume. I think I've done that before. Let's go and see. What was the question again? Could gout be caused by too much bile in the blood? Let's just go do the serum, bile, gout. PubMed. Oops, PubMe. See, I've looked this one up before, I think. The serum metabolic profiling of gout patients was significantly different from healthy subjects. Bilirubin was a potential biomarker. Bilirubin. That's where bilirubin comes from. So here's the thing, folks. Bilirubin by itself, if it's high, you're definitely leaking bile into the blood. There's direct bilirubin, there's indirect. I'm not going to get into all that today, but if you're leaking too much bilirubin into the blood, you definitely have toxic bile leaking into the blood. If it's normal or low, if it's low, you got other issues. If it's normal, that doesn't necessarily tell us either way. There's not enough research and data, but if you have health problems, you pretty much got bile leaking into your blood. Let me just see if they talk anything more about here. If they talk about the amounts of bile. They're just doing the profiling. It doesn't look like they're doing the actual. Here we go. Area under the curve. These were higher. So that was mainly the bilirubin. Let's just go and see if there's anything else. Is that the same one? Nope, this is a different one. Metabolomics, if you look up and you see the research says metabolomics, one of the things they almost always are analyzing in it is bile. So if you ever look and you see this word, they're almost always going to have bile in that analysis. Let's see. In the discovery cohort, the group that they're trying to figure this out, in 40 differential serum metabolites were identified that could distinguish gout patients from healthy controls. Where's the bile? Did we find any bile? Bile secretion, the proposed metabolic pathways, and they talk about bile secretion. So that's what we got so far on this. But yeah, it makes sense. Bilirubin being a marker, then yeah. Okay. So let's go find some more. So Mitzi, you tried to find it on Twitter, couldn't get it to work. You don't ever use your Twitter account, so it could be user error. Again, like anybody who has a Twitter account, we're trying to find out if this is broadcasting to Twitter on my NutriDetect. NutriDetect can't fit Nutrition Detective on a Twitter name, and so it's Nutri, NutriDetect. Okay. So his math says video's blurry on YouTube and Twitter. Well, we're going to try to figure this out. I sometimes have a crappy internet connection here, and we're having to run it from, through here. So we'll try to, well, actually, let me see. Okay, so his math, I'm going to try making this a little higher resolution. So it's still, we're about to shift it. Okay, I'll tell you when we shift it. So look at the picture now. And I just made it a little higher resolution. Is that any better? Joe, if you could look and see if that, the fonts are rather small on the screen. Okay, so let's do this. There we go. Is that better? That looks better to me. It's huge for me when I'm looking at it. On the screen, it's a little smaller. Rome, my good buddy Rome, says if he detoxes all his vitamin A, will he be as strong and handsome as me? You can only hope, Rome. You can only hope. Rome, if you guys didn't know, 1 or 2 podcasts ago, Rome did I talked about how breathing better is like free detox all day long. So, I mean, I've been seeing different quote 20,000 breaths a day, 28,000 breaths a day, and all in between 22, 24, it doesn't really matter. The better you breathe. So doing breathing exercises doesn't necessarily make you a better breather. Learning how to breathe better helps you become a better breather. It's like, what is it? Bruce Lee said he doesn't fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. He fears the man who's practiced, or he doesn't fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks one time each. He fears the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. So what he's saying there is like, you could do all the yoga breathing exercises in the world. If you suck at breathing, you didn't get any better. Or as Tony Blauer said, be careful what you practice because you just might get good at the wrong thing. So Rome it's linked on the last, and Rome, if you want to post a link in the chat here, you could, to your nervous system evolution program. I do Rome's breathing exercises. I really like them. I actually do them at the gym every time I go before I do my workout. Before I even start my warm-up, I do the breath work. And so Rome's program is great. I highly recommend it. I do it myself. So 7 minutes a day, and you could improve your breathing, which means every breath you're going to be you're going to be breathing out more aldehydes and toxic stuff. So, but even though Rome is like the breathing expert, he's still got to try to become as strong and handsome as me. Anyway, okay, so let's see. We got So Daisy Bakes. At first, I thought when I first looked at that name, I thought I saw So Daisy Dukes. Anyway, I know, she says, I know you've talked about the duration paradox when taking statins. Does taking statins interfere with the detoxing of vitamin A, copper, and other heavy metals? Well, so let me just say that I remember Grant very early on emailed me and said, here, maybe I should move my camera up just a bit so that my face isn't blocked by the question. Okay. I remember Grant sending me a message saying the statin side effects looked exactly like vitamin A toxicity. I mean, but you guys know that we'll say like pretty much everything looks like vitamin A toxicity because vitamin A toxicity damages the liver. Once your liver's leaking bile into your blood, the blood goes everywhere. So that means the bile, sorry if I said that wrong, bile goes everywhere once it leaks into your blood. And then the toxic bile and whatever's in it, the vitamin A, the copper, the lead, the cadmium, the mercury, all that stuff can cause problems. The forever chemicals, they can cause problems anywhere in the body. So does everything kind of look like vitamin A toxicity and liver toxic bile leaking into the blood? Yeah, it does. So again, anybody who's here, if you're on Twitter and you're seeing this, please comment so I can know that this is working on Twitter or not. Anyway, does taking statins interfere with the detoxing of vitamin A? So let's just go and look and see what shows up. Actually, wait, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Let's do statin, serum, copper, PubMed. Oh, here's an important thing. Grant sent me one, and I'm not going to go find the quote right now, but he sent it to me in an email. Vitamin A is actually in the LDL molecule. The low-density lipoprotein cholesterol molecule contains vitamin A, which is the one they call the bad cholesterol again. And if you have more of it, your health is, you have more health risks and stuff like that. It's LDL, right? That's the bad cholesterol. It contains vitamin A. Don't know why so many people have trouble seeing the connection between vitamin A being a problem. I'm not saying you are, so Daisy Bakes. I'm saying like just everyone. So let's just go and look and see. High serum copper was associated with elevated serum concentrations of total cholesterol and HDL cholesterol and was associated with increased risks of high total cholesterol and high LDL cholesterol dyslipidemia. So more copper, more cholesterol. Okay. High, and then one of the other things, well, I won't get into that, but triglycerides, they absolutely, in research studies, they absolutely can just raise triglycerides by giving vitamin A. So when you're talking about lipids in general, triglycerides being a big one, it's absolutely, triglycerides are absolutely liver related. They're absolutely vitamin A related. Why don't I go find that? Why don't I go find that anyway? Let's go to my forum. So if you guys ever want to find if I've written on certain topics, go to this page. Here's an article I did on this. Vitamin A induced hypertriglyceridemia in cholesterol-fed rats. Like vitamin A induced high triglycerides. Increased risk for vitamin A toxicity and severe hypertriglyceridemia. They put the cart before the horse on that one. They just do their best to try to not say that vitamin A is toxic. They really do their best. 8 of these 9 patients had retinol present in the chylomicron VLDL fraction, whereas retinol was not detectable in this fraction in any of the 9 normal controls. So see, the hyperlipoproteinemia, 8 of them had retinol. It's so are you seeing that maybe cholesterol is like binding to vitamin A to try to protect you from it? So if you had more vitamin A present and vitamin A is in low LDL, do you see the connections here? So when you see bad cholesterol, it's probably trying to protect you from something. Although hypertriglyceridemia occurs in high incidence with bexarotene therapy, this is a synthetic retinoid. It's just a man-made designed vitamin A. Okay. And I mentioned this gentleman. I had a client with real hypervitaminosis A. He was diagnosed with high vitamin A, and his triglycerides were up in the 400s to 500s. It was very difficult to get him down. He also had an alcohol problem, which affects what? Your liver. So it all just compounds. Oh, there's research showing that when you drink, you actually kick vitamin A out of your liver into your bloodstream. Some people, including myself in the past, mistakenly thought that meant the liver was detoxing vitamin A. It's not detoxing vitamin A. You're storing alcohol in the liver. You can actually do that. You store alcohol in the liver for a very short time. So you're storing alcohol in the liver. It's kicking out the vitamin A into the bile in the blood. And now you've got more vitamin A in the blood. This gentleman was an alcoholic, drank a lot, pushed the vitamin A out of the liver, had high vitamin A in the blood. The body tries to protect it by making more triglycerides. The body does all sorts of things to protect you. We have to assume that the body's doing something intelligent. That's our starting assumption. The body's reactions are intelligent and is trying to protect us in some way. So we got the vitamin A. We connected that. We connected copper. So how would your serum copper go up if you weren't eating more? Or why are these things connected? Because there's either more bile in the blood, or the statin is actually could actually drive it up itself. We found significant associations between serum copper and total cholesterol, glycohemoglobin, and fasting insulin. So more copper, more insulin floating around in your blood all the time. You don't want that. What are they saying here? Let's see. Just because I love copper so much, let's just go and do this for all the copper crazy people out there. Conflicting data on the associations between copper and glycemia, plasma lipids, and atherosclerotic diseases. It has pro-oxidant and antioxidant effects. These things don't do both. Copper supplementation of any type might not be recommended in view of its association with inflammation and markers of oxidative stress. Don't supplement copper ever, folks. I don't care if it's bound to a little niacinamide, bioavailable or not. I don't care. So we got statins and wait. What was that? Effective statin therapy on serum trace element statuses in dyslipidemic subjects. So what do we see? Statin treatment was associated with a significant reduction in mean serum zinc. So the blood zinc went down, blood copper went down, ceruloplasmin went down, and median CRP went down. Your body actually tries to keep zinc and copper kind of close. So if serum zinc goes down, you're generally going to see, in the initial phases of our work, we generally see zinc and copper go up and down together. The body tries to keep them there because, in my opinion, it wants to keep the zinc close to the copper to protect you. So you see the ceruloplasmin went down because ceruloplasmin generally follows copper. The zinc is following copper. It could simply be less bile being made. But let's go look at vitamin A now. What was this? Serum levels of LDL cholesterol and high sensitivity CRP, a marker of inflammation in the system, were found to be independent determinants of serum copper levels. If you're out there having some love affair with copper, I'm sorry, it's going to end badly. It's just going to end badly. I don't care how well they present their stuff. Let's do statin retinoid, or let's do serum retinol. Now, before I even look at this paper, how could something like a drug like a statin affect vitamin A in the blood? Well, it could either slow down bile production, which if the liver makes cholesterol and triglycerides and these other things, and it lowers them in the blood, does it make sense that it might be reducing bile production overall? So I haven't even gotten into this paper, but does that make sense? Yeah, it can. So, no significant differences between vitamin A, vitamin E, or CoQ10. Okay. Oh my God. The first study group consisted of 13 children aged 10 to 18 years treated with a statin. The children are getting toxic earlier and earlier, folks. Blood vitamin A went up with alcohol consumption. Remember how I told you that? The more alcohol you drink, the more vitamin A you kick out of your liver into your blood. You don't want that. Vitamin A in your blood is where it causes problems. Here we go. Where was it? They did say here serum retinol went up in the statin group. What was the quote? Serum retinol increased. Serum retinol increased in diet and statin treated groups. Don't want that. So that's what we got. But the duration paradox is not really what we're talking about here. This is we're talking about short-term stuff, because most drug studies are short-term because they don't want to do long-term studies on drugs because they're a disaster, because the longer you take the poison, the more sick you get. Remember, pharmaceutical therapy is giving people poisons that have a specific effect that they want to see in their study so they can say this treats this. Then you hear the side effect list and you go, oh, this also treats all these other parts of the body, but in a terrible way. And the longer you take a poison, that's the idea of the duration paradox. The longer you take a poison, the more the poison effects you see. Statins are absolutely affecting the liver. So, did I already look this up? Atorvastatin induces bile acid synthetic enzyme. I save all these links. I don't know if you guys know this, but I save these links at the end, and then we put them into a giant research database spreadsheet. So if you wanted to search all the research links that I've been able to save and put in there in a more organized way, we have lots of search terms in there for them. That's accessible to my inner circle people who come to my special group inside the Love Your Liver Network. It's an extra fee, but yeah. Let's see. The actions of serum cholesterol-lowering drugs are based primarily or influencing cholesterol synthesis, statins, cholesterol absorption, ezetimibe or ezetimibe, whatever, or bile acid synthesis. They're actually telling you they directly go after the bile. Right? Cholesterol is broken down and excreted as neutral sterols of cholesterol into feces and by conversion to bile acids. So they could slow down the conversion to bile acids. That's one of the ways they could speed it up. I'm sorry. That's how they get rid of cholesterol, right? They could speed up cholesterol's conversion into bile acids. So then you have less cholesterol afterwards and more bile acids. Sounds delightful, right? What else do we have? Atorvastatin induces bile acid synthetic enzyme. This is one of the cytochromes. This is one of the last, or towards the end steps of detox in your liver. So it induces that bile acid creating enzyme. So like they just said, you're reducing cholesterol by turning it into more bile or a different type of bile. Remember what causes different diseases. It's either the amount of bile in your blood or it's the recipe of the bile in your blood. It could also be what's in your bile, like copper, like vitamin A, like manganese. If you don't know, manganese and Parkinson's, oh boy, those are all just together. Yeah, so that's that. So, okay, so Joe told me 5 viewers on Twitter. Okay, so Sarah said she switched over to Twitter and saw that it was streaming. Cool. Let me see. What is this? Pierre, I'm just looking at the link you sent me. Yeah, another Sci-Hub. That's just another Sci-Hub. Okay. Okay. So, No Place Like Home asks, what do you recommend for stopping mild to moderate itching in late pregnancy? Also, what dose of vitamin K2 would be okay for late pregnancy? Well, this is just I'm going to make an important statement about this, because a lot of nutritional practitioners will say, well, this dose is completely safe and completely fine for everyone. And then if you don't know, I get the sensitive people who other practitioners couldn't help. And these people often, some of you out there may be these people. You take the normal dose and you're like, oh my gosh, that wrecked me for like 2 or 3 days. I can't take that dose. So am I going to say, I don't ever say a certain dose is okay for everyone, or I don't just say it's okay for pregnancy. If you don't know, pregnancy is a minefield to recommend anything for. Now, if we go activated, so if you want to search the research on charcoal, you look up activated carbon first. Pruritus is itching. See if we can find it. Well, let's go activated carbon. We don't need the pruritus. We'll go cholestasis pregnancy. I know there's papers on this. I have them. If anyone wants to find the paper, if anyone's in the Love Your Liver program right now, maybe it's under charcoal. Because they actually, what did they compare activated charcoal to? They compare it to, what's that other binder? Actually, you know what? Sometimes when PubMed's not working very well, we go to activated charcoal versus no treatment. The reduction in bile salts was greater with charcoal. Charcoal binds bile. This is what it does. But no difference in pruritus relief. Okay. Well, if you don't take enough, or you don't put it in the right place, it may not help. So this is what you always have to think of when you look at studies. If somebody wanted to use charcoal, actually, let me go find you something. Let's go charcoalremedies.com. Let's go itching. So this is where this is one of the places you can go search. It's on 3 different pages. But here's what, if you want to work on pruritus or itching, if you're looking up studies on pregnancy and pruritus, then you look up that word, use that word. 2 main approaches. One, you could make, why if you've got the bile salts coming, or bile acids, bile salts coming out of the skin and the other toxic stuff in the bile, why not go straight at that area and attack the toxins that are causing the symptom that you don't want. So you could do a charcoal poultice. Charcoal poultice is very easy. I do it a little differently than most people on the internet do because I want real soluble fiber in there. So what we do, the typical recipe is you mix some good psyllium fiber. My Amazon list, which the psyllium fiber that I like is down there, the organic psyllium fiber. That's very finely ground. You want it to be very finely ground. You mix half psyllium with half charcoal. And I use activated hardwood charcoal. I use hardwood charcoal, activated charcoal, but only hardwood. I don't like coconut stuff. Some people have been telling me that the coconut charcoal that's coming out now has a weird taste and a weird smell. And this person said they tested 4 or 5 brands. So maybe they're trying to do something to the charcoal now, folks. Anyway, 1 part charcoal, 1 part psyllium. Mix it with enough water to make it into kind of a mask type paste, right? You can have it be fairly thick if you want, and then you would put it on the itching area, and you leave it on for at least 20 minutes. Could you leave it on longer if you're getting relief? Sure. The other thing you could do, and you could repeat it, you could take it off and do a new batch. Like if you got some relief for 20 minutes and then it starts itching again, take it off, put it back on, and it'll reduce the itching. The next thing would be what we call charcoal plus lotion. I don't call it charcoal lotion because that doesn't describe it. So you mix, I forget what the ratio was. Oh, it was like a little bit less charcoal than lotion. So maybe like a teaspoon of lotion to maybe half a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of charcoal. Mash those together. You do kind of have to mash them together. You can use magnesium lotion for this. You could use, just about any lotion that works well for you. Somebody said, can they use oil, like just coconut oil or whatever? I don't know. I haven't tried that. You do want the lotion holds it together, though. That's partially why you have to mash it together. And then you would put that on the area, put it on fairly like a thick layer so it's still black. Like, so if you're looking at it and it's gray, it's not black. You did it too thin. You spread it too thin. And then you would leave that on at least 20 minutes. And since we're staying outside, there's nothing that should be affecting anything with pregnancy. Taking charcoal internally, that's not something, that's very dose dependent. That's very much dependent upon how constipated somebody is. But you could do one or the other. Somebody who was having this issue could do one or the other, or they could do both approaches. Just remember the key thing with charcoal is it does tend to be constipating. So you either need to watch your dosing or you need to do some things to help you poop while you take it. It is very normal for poison control centers when they give mega doses of charcoal to give a laxative with it. Now we have natural laxative things that I talked about in the Love Your Liver program that you can take with charcoal to both get the effect of the charcoal, reducing the bile salts as you just saw in that paper, and then make sure you keep pooping. Okay. Now, what dose of vitamin K2 would be okay for late pregnancy? Well, the stuff I've found on the internet generally says, this is not completely true, but it generally says there's no real known side effects for vitamin K. If we're talking about natural forms. Now, if you go and you look up K3 is completely synthetic. And it's always been terrible. They did just happen to give it to, human babies for a while for that post-birth vitamin K. They gave them a totally synthetic vitamin K and it caused problems. And oops, gosh, you poisoned our newborn children. Thanks, conventional medicine. You're so helpful. They still allow that vitamin K3 to be put in dog foods, I believe. That's how much they love your dogs. But generally, I can't say any dose is safe. There's people who take almost the smallest dose of vitamin K2 they can, and they get symptoms. They might get like teeth sensitivity and other symptoms like that. So there's studies where they give people 45 milligrams, 45,000 milligrams of K2, the MK4 type a day. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of problems in the study. And they decalcify the carotid arteries. Now, do you have to take that much to do it? I don't think so. But that's what the studies were. So the doses can be wildly, wildly different. a common dose I have people try first. I like the Thorn MK4 drops, the Thorn K2 drops without D3, always without D3. We don't take rat poison around here. D3 supplements are rat poison. We don't do those. Always get it without D3. So the Thorn drops is one approach that I use. I also use some other pills, but I'm just going to talk about that here. MK4 up to about 5,000 micrograms a day is what I will commonly use with people. So what you do with that information is on you. But that's what I do. Okay, Pierre saying my Twitter stream seems to work fine, so thank you, Pierre. Okay, Topsy says you can see me live on Twitter with a few seconds delay. Thank you for that. Can somebody try to make a comment from Twitter? Like, can you make comments on Twitter? That would be helpful to know. Okay, resolution's still low. Okay, well, we'll just have to figure that out. See, when I go and start opening all these tabs as we go, it's makes my computer run slower. I did add a software that or an app, an extension that turns off all my tabs so they don't suck memory. It's probably my backup, my drive backups. Let me try something. Let me try. Okay. Did that make it any better? I'm going to try turning off some of these things. And so let me, at each step, I'll see if it makes it any better. Okay. Did that get any better? I just shut down some of my hard drive backup stuff. I have multiple hard drive backup things. Okay, Joey asked, okay, so I hear it's working on Twitter. That's his math says it's working on Twitter, just low resolution. Joey asked, do I believe in Epstein-Barr virus in the liver? This is a long conversation. I believe that virus theory here. Let me put this up just for a bit. Virus theory is the most garbage theory of all garbage theories. Virus theory. Grant and I have had chats about this. We have different. We have different theories. Grant's more of like viruses are damaged proteins that are coming about due to toxicity. I'm okay with that theory. That theory could be just as valid as anything. I also think that it's possible that viruses, if they aren't, here's the thing we have to think of: are viruses created the way that science tries to find the viruses? Are they created? Because if you look at the virus processes, there's tons of stuff they put in there. So are the viruses created by all the stuff they're doing there? But I had another concept that I just threw out, which was viruses may be blueprint proteins telling the body to do something like detox, like increase your processing of. It could even be a trigger to dump bile. Who knows? Whatever those proteins are, they're what Grant and I totally agreed on was they are evidence of toxicity present in the blood. That's what it's evidence of. That's all it's evidence of. So whether it's for better or worse, it doesn't really matter. They're there because there's a problem. That's all. And are they exosomes? Well, I've shown research before that retinoic acid, the most toxic form of vitamin A, regulates exosome production. That's a weird connection. Why would a toxin like vitamin A be regulating exosome production? And viruses are just... Oh, wait. Actually, Mawson has a paper, I believe, on Epstein-Barr. Mawson, Epstein. He connects it to something else. Are they making it hard to find? See, look at this. Epstein-Barr infection. Look at Epstein-Barr virus infection is extremely common worldwide, with approximately 90% of adults testing positive for Epstein-Barr antibodies. 90% of adults. Do you think that there might be some injections that they've given to 90% of adults that might have something to do with the toxicity that's showing up in their blood? Antibodies are markers of toxicity. That's what they are. Our body makes antibodies to bind to toxins. Let me go find. Let's do good old. You're going to want to look at this article about autoimmunity and how it's foundationally vitamin A toxicity. As an example, celiac. The researchers couldn't create celiac in the cells that they were testing until they added retinoic acid. So if you have celiac, you have vitamin A toxicity. And then there's the people out there who say, well, you're not sensitive to gluten, you're sensitive to glyphosate. Well, what if I were to show you that Stephanie Seneff shows that glyphosate slows down a very specific pathway that helps you detox vitamin A? So do you see how we just connect it down the line? Anyway, antibodies bind to toxins. 90% of adults test positive for Epstein-Barr virus. Let me go look up something else, see if I can find it from Baby Brigade Red Cross, because I thought this was an interesting thing. This is from the Red Cross. Now, your opinion of them, I understand a lot of people have different opinions on the Red Cross, but I just saw, as you might have seen it in that 85%. Regular testing, where is it? Regular testing is conducted on blood donations to check for cytomegalovirus antibodies, another virus antibody. The CMV virus is present in up to 85% of adults by age 40, making CMV negative status a big deal. So we have Epstein-Barr virus. I mean, I remember there was one naturopathic doctor here in town who was saying, she was basically going to test everybody. Her theory was Epstein-Barr virus is in everybody, and it's causing all the diseases. I was kind of going that. I mean, a patient of hers came and talked to me, and she was like, if you go and see her, she is going to try to prove that Epstein-Barr is causing your stuff. Like, that's her thing here in my town. So if we have 90% of people in the world with Epstein-Barr virus, and they're saying 85% of adults, at least they're saying here in the US, or they just say adults, 85% of them have antibodies to this virus. What do you think all these... Now, I will tell you that I think my last pokey, I was maybe age 16. That's over 30 years ago. That's when I stopped getting the poison shots. Funny thing, I am in this baby brigade, as they call it, for the Red Cross. They call me a lot because why? I'm O negative, and they can use my blood with anybody. So that's a rare blood type. And then I'm also the baby brigade. So I don't have cytomegalovirus. Just so happens I stopped taking the shots 30 plus years ago. Do you see the coincidence? So, what do I think of Epstein-Barr? I mean, let's go and do Epstein-Barr retinol, PubMed. So whenever you see retinoic acid affecting something, you know that, and you see it does affect it, then vitamin A is part of it. Retinoic acid has been previously shown to inhibit reactivation of Epstein-Barr infection. Do they mean in cells? Okay, here's the concept you want to just realize that it's just BS. Virus reactivation. Virus reactivation. Why would a virus suddenly reactivate? If it's even a thing at all. The terrain changed. Maybe toxins were dumped. I think I went over copper and shingles in a live stream back, like maybe 5 or 6. Copper is a very, very potent nerve toxin. So is vitamin B6. B6 is an alcohol and an aldehyde. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate, the one that everybody loves, is pyridoxaldehyde. You're taking an aldehyde as a vitamin. And it collects in your nerves. So they lied to you about, the vitamin means vital amine, which tend to be protein-based. And yet they're trying to tell you that alcohols and aldehydes are vitamins. And they say that B vitamins don't accumulate in your body, but B6 accumulates in your nerves and can cause peripheral neuropathy in the exact same pattern that diabetic neuropathy happens in, what they call the sock and glove pattern. So they just haven't been telling us the truth about these things. But anyway, whenever you see in the research, they're saying retinoic acid is good for something, that absolutely means that vitamin A and retinoic acid is causing it. That's just what it means, because they do these studies in cells. And when they go into whole people, you see a lot different stuff. But the thing I would suspect more with Epstein-Barr would be copper. Let me just say, I'm really glad you're here, Joe, because switching back and forth between the screens, if I had to do it, it would never get done. Yeah, see, I can hardly even look at the private chats, Joe. So if you guys don't know, if you want to say thank you to Joe Baker's Remedy Report is his channel on YouTube. He helped teach me how to do the streaming software. He's in the background flipping the screens. I want to say thank you to Joe. If you guys want to say thank you to Joe, I'd appreciate that, because he's the one that helped this happen. Okay. More than 90% of people are latently infected with the lymphotropic herpes virus, Epstein-Barr virus, and or human herpes virus 6. Gosh, how are these spreading so much? And why are so many people... This, again, we all have candida in us. Why does it not manifest in everybody? We all have... Almost all of us have these viruses. And are these viruses that were maybe injected into us, causing us all to be sick? Not all of us. But what's likely keeping some of us from getting sick from it? How we maintain the terrain. It's either the terrain has the right nutrients in it, or the terrain doesn't have as much of the toxins in it. That's how we fix things. So there's not a lot of... Oops, didn't put space there. I want to find that Mawson paper. Where's the Mawson paper? Let me go to PubMed itself. Let's go Mawson. Epstein-Barr. Hopefully this will come up. There it is. Thus, an endogenous means created from within, an endogenous form of retinoid toxicity, as in vitamin A, related to malaria infection. Wait, malaria infection is somehow changing the retinoid toxicity of the body? Bill Gates loves vitamin A. And Bill Gates genetically modified mosquitoes. And what carries malaria? Mosquitoes. This is so weird. Bill Gates gives free multivitamins with vitamin A in them to pregnant women in third world countries. Bill Gates is genetically modifying plants to make more vitamin A? The World Health Organization gives vitamin A injections and they call them immunizations? So anyway, thus, an endogenous form of retinoid toxicity related to malaria infection may be the common factor linking frequent malaria, Epstein-Barr infection, and Burkitt's lymphoma, whereby prolonged exposure of lymphatic tissues to high concentrations of retinoids, the different forms of vitamin A, may combine to induce B-cell translocation and increase the risk of Burkitt's lymphoma. Oh, let's go here. The first author has proposed that the Merozoite stage malaria parasite emerging from the liver, a parasite living in the liver, okay, uses its absorbed vitamin A. So it stores vitamin A as a cell membrane destabilizer to invade the red blood cells, causing anemia and other signs and symptoms of the disease as manifestations of an endogenous, created from within, form of hypervitaminosis A, vitamin A toxicity. So a parasite that lives in the liver, which is, what do we store in the liver? Vitamin A. He's suggesting that it's using the absorbed vitamin A as a bioweapon against you. It's not a vitamin, folks. It's not a vitamin. Okay. Sorry, I lost where I was. Wow, how did I scroll down so far? Okay, Joey asks, what vitamins are a no-no besides vitamin A? Vitamin D is rat poison. Don't take vitamin D. Don't take vitamin D supplements. Here's how you want to know how to fix your vitamin D levels. Stop eating vitamin A or reduce it greatly. Get some sunlight or ultraviolet B light on bare skin on a regular basis. The key things about getting sunlight or ultraviolet B light on your skin on a regular basis, you don't want to be getting noticeable skin damage. If you are noticing skin damage, sun damage, you're doing too much. Your skin's still too toxic. Sun damage to the skin is a combination of the sun. Now here's the thing to remember. I do think we need the energy from the sun to be happy and healthy and to live well. But what do you know of that the sun hits that actually gets better from it? You know what I mean? Like, if y'all haven't noticed, like all the signs they make these days are oxidizing and going pale like super quick. Actually, some of the signs even look like they're getting burned from the sun, which is weird because in the Bible, they were talking about in the end times that the sun was going to scorch the earth and all that stuff. It's kind of weird that some signs are like actually burning black just from the sun and other signs are losing their color extremely fast. And the sun is now white in the sky instead of the yellow that it used to be. Don't try to tell me that the sun's always been that color because it has not. Go outside and look at the sun. You can hardly look at it anymore. You remember? I want you to think about it. Everybody knows now, like you look at the sun and you can hardly look at it for like half a second. It's so bright. But when we were children, when I was a child, they had to tell you, don't stare at the sun. Why'd they have to tell you that? Because you could. The sun is different these days. If you haven't, the sun used to be yellow. That's why all the kids in school, you colored it as a yellow sun. Kids in school maybe still color it yellow because they learned to do that, but it's not yellow up in the sky. It's white. Anyway, that's a little aside. Don't reduce your vitamin A. Sunlight or UVB, 2 tolerance. And what I mean by that is don't get skin damage. If you get skin damage, your skin is still too toxic. And if you make yourself feel like crap by how much sun or sunlight or UVB you get, you did too much. Do less. Number 3 is don't take vitamin D pills. Number 4 is fix your magnesium levels through the use of topical magnesium. I have big articles on this on the Love Your Liver program. And then number 5 is to get the right amount of zinc. A little additional extra one would be vitamin K if it's necessary. Vitamin K is supposed to be made by your gut biome. It's supposed to be made by your gut biome. How do you think cows make vitamin K for you to eat in the cheese that everybody pushes for the vitamin K2? The cows make it in their gut, and it makes its way into the milk. So, vitamin K is, we dose vitamin K based on symptoms. And that's something I talk to my clients about directly in their consult. Vitamin E, we basically, the fat soluble vitamins, except for vitamin K, A, D, and E, we don't supplement those for sure. I don't have people generally supplement B6 because it's another aldehyde. So I want you to understand retinol and retinaldehyde, alcohol aldehyde, tocopherol, that's vitamin E, and tocotrienol, those end in OL, those are alcohols. Vitamin D, cholecalciferol, and what am I thinking of? What's the other one? Calcitriol. Those are alcohols. Like, am I seriously supposed to believe that alcohols are vitamins? They are different from ethanol. I know this. But they also turn into aldehydes. I have a hard time. I don't supplement people with A. I don't supplement people with D. I don't supplement people with E. Vitamin K is if the symptoms dictate it. And over time, if people are doing the right things, they don't end up having to supplement vitamin K anymore. That's what we see. So, Joey asked, do I believe in lymphatic work before detoxing? Should it be a whole body detox? I don't do a lot of the standard detox things. The reason, if the lymphatic system is the sewer system of the body, if you're clogging up your sewer system, you're putting too many toxins in. The answer is, if you were always having a clogged toilet, maybe first we look at what you're putting in the toilet, right? If you can flush your toilet normally with nothing in it and it works, but you start putting too much crap in it or too many wet wipes or too many other things and it clogs up, then we go, it's what you're putting. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but anybody who's ever used wet wipes and you can't unclog it and the plumber comes, one of the first questions they ask you, do you use wet wipes? And then if you say yes, they're kind of like, okay, we know what we're doing now. One of my ideas that my $1 million ideas would be to make an organic wet wipe that easily breaks down and then sell it to Costco. If you end up making it, you give me some royalties if I gave you the idea. So, but the lymphatic, if you think of the lymphatic as the sewage system, right? What goes into the sewer? The crap. So if we put less crap in the body, it's going to clog up the toilet, the sewage system less. So we do three main things on my program. We put less toxins in, and a lot of people don't know what the toxins are. So they just continually put them in, or they put more toxins in like vitamin A thinking it's good for them. And they make the system worse. So we stop putting in the toxins, or we reduce and minimize the toxins. We help the body remove the stored toxins, especially in the liver, also in the body fat. And then we provide the body with the nutrients that it needs to protect itself from toxins and to heal the damage done by the toxins. That's the three-pronged approach. If people want to do lymphatic detox, that's up to them. Most people tend to find as they do things right that their lymphatic system starts to clear up all on its own. So, let's see. Okay, so Soil Food, wait, what is that one? Soil Food Web Warrior says he's watching through Twitter. Okay, so we're going through to Twitter. Cool. Joey, you're saying I have to take zinc. Is copper okay with it? Absolutely not. In my opinion, I would never give a copper supplement. Well, maybe if there was somebody I really, really didn't like and I didn't want to be a good Christian, I could give them copper, but that's not going to happen. Joey, my approaches, what I'm going to tell you is if you've been wandering around Facebook and looking at other people's approaches, you're going to find my approaches are diametrically opposed to that. And if you start looking at the testimonials and the long-term testimonials that we get over it. See, here's the thing is my testimonials from people, and you guys who give me testimonials, you're the best. My testimonials are like months and years of work. Most testimonials that you see on the internet are people like trying a supplement or seeing a doctor for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. And everybody has that honeymoon phase. Like you can give, I want you to understand, you can give poisons to people that make them feel better or reduce their symptoms. That is the entire basis of conventional medicine. So when people, you see testimonials on Amazon for this supplement where I say, don't take that supplement, but you're like, but the people on Amazon say they bought it and they tried it and a week later they feel so much amazing. They feel so amazing. It's gonna end badly. I don't like, I could do the cheap, dirty, quick supplements to help people feel better. And as a lot of you out there know, some of those supplements, some people take them and they feel absolutely god awful as soon as they start taking them. What's wrong with them? Maybe they're just more sensitive to poisons. And other people take the poisons. I just saw, it's actually somebody sent me a message in an email and they said, my dad used to take, has been taking medications for a very, very long time. And he seems to have been okay with them. But then he got the pokey and now all of a sudden he's super sensitive to the medications and he can hardly take them and they're causing him all sorts of side effects. What changed? His liver changed because of something that was put in it. Finally put him over the edge. All those meds were poisons the whole time. He could tolerate them. Here's a dangerous thing. If you're one of those people who can take tons of supplements and tons of meds and you don't have problems, boy, when that dam breaks, it's ugly. That's where your people will be like, but he was so healthy and he could take everything without a problem. And then he just died of a heart attack. And it's not humorous, but we have all known people who look super healthy and then just croak. Well, there's something going on in the background. So, we got 38 people. For an unannounced little live stream, this is good. John asked, how do you find the stream on Twitter? Well, it'd be on my channel, on my page, which is NutriDetect, NutriDetect. Or you can do the @ symbol at NutriDetect on Twitter. So Daisy Bake says the high LDL is protecting holding the vitamin A in your blood. That's one of the things it does. Yes. We normally see LDL and total cholesterol go down the longer people are on the vitamin A diet. Now, when we look at research, there's two things that, well, here's what we know about Grant Genereux. He's been doing the low vitamin A diet for longer than just about anybody. His doctor said to Grant, when he saw his cholesterol numbers, he's like, you have the cholesterol numbers of a child. Like the doctor was impressed because what do doctors want, right? They want really low cholesterol. Some people out there try to say that I'm advocating for low cholesterol. No, we fix the toxicity in the liver and then the liver changes the cholesterol. That's what we want. We don't want to be putting statins, known poisons into the system to lower cholesterol because that likely means it's lowering. I see the super chat. We'll get to that, Ryan, in just 1 second. But we don't want to, if you make the liver do things, almost guaranteed you're poisoning the liver. We can make blood numbers look better, but it's long-term poison. So what exactly do statins do? I talked about that. They affect the bile. That is how they affect anything and everything. They affect the liver, which affects the bile. And if you go and you look at the long-term, so you're saying your no negative side effects and your brain fog is gone. Well, I had a buddy, he took antibiotics for some issue, or maybe it was a surgery he had. And all of a sudden he goes, hey man, my brain fog's gone. I have so much more energy and my eczema on my leg disappeared. What would I tell you that all those things were connected to in his blood? He was leaking bile into his blood, and that caused all of those issues. He took the antibiotic, it affected his bile and or it affected his gut biome. Your gut biome actually transforms bile. Maybe it killed off the bacteria that was making too many secondary bile acids that are extra toxic to your system. Maybe it slowed down his bile production. Maybe it changed his bile recipe in another way. And I told him, I said, those problems are going to come back because that antibiotic didn't fix any of the root causes of the problems. He was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, it's a nice thing. You cannot take a poison and long-term expect things to get better. The longer you take a poison, the more problems you're going to eventually have. And this is just the nature of it. So what these doctors are trying to do is they're trying to play games with your labs. And they'll report in studies, oh, we lowered their cholesterol and maybe they saw some heart risk disease go down. But they didn't look at all the other diseases that went up. You can make one disease look better while you're making other diseases look worse or appear out of nowhere. Oh, but Grant's total cholesterol, I want to say, was down like 120. And even me, back then, I looked at that and I was like, that's really freaking low. Like at the time, I was like, I'm a little concerned. But then I thought about it and I thought Grant is blazing trails in this world of vitamin A toxicity. And he's doing great by his own admission. He's doing great. He's 60 something. He's got good stamina on his bike. He's happy. He's doing well. Still has all the color to his hair. Things that aren't normal these days. So I thought about it and I went, well, I'm not going to assume that it's bad. So there's two things that there's definite. I mean, I do know that when cholesterol gets really low, it can be associated with schizophrenia. That's in the research too. Schizophrenia also tends to associate with underweight people. And underweight people, in my opinion, there's something going on with their bile. Underweight people actually live. You have to remember in the longevity studies, they see that. So there's normal people, and then overweight people live not as long as the normal weight people. But the underweight people, chronically underweight people, die the soonest of all of them. So you don't always want to think that being thinner is better. But the chronically underweight people, their livers I'm not trying to scare you underweight people. This is just the reality. Underweight people, their livers in the worst shape. And what do we see as we get people's livers better in the program? They start to gain weight and hold weight on without having to shove tons of extra calories down their throat. But yeah, the statin stuff, I think didn't Grant do an article on statins? I think he did. If somebody wants to look that up and maybe tag So Daisy Bakes, I'm pretty sure Grant did an article on statins. Matt asks, if copper blocks potassium channels, is there any point to supplementing with potassium while still copper toxic? Yes, because potassium can relieve. You can kind of like overpower the blocked channels by getting enough in there. So yeah. No, if you wait until you're not toxic to do anything, you're going to be waiting forever because we live in a toxic world. This is why when people are like, but the Okinawans and but my great grandparents and all this stuff. And I'm like, you don't live in their world, man. Your context is absolutely different. Like, I think Grant Genereux had like one vaccine because he's like 10 or 12 or 14 years older than I am. He had like one vaccine or maybe two, and he's taken one antibiotic in his entire life. He still got vitamin A toxic. He still got jaundice. He still got eczema. He still was having chronic kidney failure. Whatever happened, Grant's history is pretty hard to track down as to what broke his liver. That's a tough one. With other people, you can look at it. I like testimonials I was posting today about a guy talking about all the antibiotics he took. And then we look at Accutane and we look at Pokies and we look at, being exposed to copper in the drinking water in your house and like glyphosate everywhere. You don't live in your grandparents' world, great-grandparents' world, or any of that stuff. And you can't go, well, these people who live on this island who probably never had a shot in their lives, you can't compare yourself to them. Or you shouldn't, because then you'll just make incorrect assumptions. When we live in such a toxic world and we've been exposed to all these toxins, the more toxic you are, the more it slows down your detox. This is a key thing. The more toxic you are, the more it slows down your detox. So therefore, because you got more toxic, you broke more things, your detox runs slower, we have to avoid more things more diligently because we can't handle it. This is a key concept. Absolutely key. So, but Matt, we do minimal effective dose. We start working on potassium. We see how it helps, whether it's food or supplements. Be very gentle with supplements, folks. If you're doing potassium supplements, just go up. I might suggest people try going up by 100 milligrams or 99 milligrams, which is the common supplement amount a day. If you're trying to slowly increase your dose, maybe 100 milligrams a day you go up by. So, but yeah, potassium supplement. Okay, so here's the thing though. Hope was answering about Matt's question. The thing about the poison always wins. This is a very key concept too. So if somebody was, let's say, being exposed to copper, whether it's through their water pipes, whether it's through their chocolate addiction, whether it's through whatever. And if you eat chocolate a bunch, you're totally making yourself copper toxic for those new folks here. So if you're making yourself more toxic with copper, you're likely putting in more copper than your body can get rid of. Okay, so you're accumulating copper in the system. And actually, it's vitamin A that blocks potassium channels. Copper simply depletes it. Vitamin D supplements have been shown to deplete potassium levels in, I think it was mice. But so if you keep putting the toxins in and they keep depleting your potassium or blocking your potassium channels, and you found that potassium helps your symptoms. So as you get more toxic, you find you have to start taking more and more potassium. But here's what will happen as you go along. You're becoming more, this one was toxic. You're getting more and more toxic. The potassium effect is going to get less and less as you become more toxic. And then you find that you have to take more and more potassium to get the same effect, or even try to get the same effect, but you don't get there. Until eventually you're so copper toxic and you're taking so much potassium that now you're getting potassium toxicity symptoms. You're taking too much potassium. And then you're up a creek because now you're still copper toxic and now your remedy doesn't work. Don't do that. This is why we always prioritize minimizing the toxins first. That is the key thing. Because if you are minimizing your toxins, if you are reducing your toxin intake to below the level of your output, right? It's just like a bank account. If you want to drain a bank account, you take out more money than you put in. Well, if you want to drain your toxin account, you stop putting in toxins as much as you can. So whatever your body's able to get rid of, it's able to get rid of. That's how it works. It's just math. Joey, if you're in the Love Your Liver program, your account should, I think it's still good. I don't know. I don't know when we instituted the yearly fee, but you can go try your login. No, John says Twitter Live sucks. Probably just Twitter bugs. Twitter, I like Twitter for what it is, but I bought Twitter Blue so I could get more reach. That's the only reason I did it. And the editing feature on my tweets doesn't work. And the extra long tweets doesn't work. And I'm like, why am I paying this? And I tagged Twitter support the other day and they don't reply to anybody. And if you trust Elon with anything, or you think Elon's a wonderful person who's going to save the world, I'm sorry, you have been horribly misled. Okay, Mr. Guy says, is cupping therapy an effective detox method to any extent? Cupping by itself, Probably not, because nothing's really leaving the body. There is something, I'm not going to talk about it here, but there's something called wet cupping or hijama in the Islamic faith, which is where you're cupping, but you're cupping on an area that has been like sliced open with a little razor. So you're drawing out that kind of the bruising blood. So wet cupping, I think, or hijama could actually help to detox a specific area. It's hard. There's nobody doing hijama in Tucson. In big cities, you might find it if you were into that, but they also only do it during certain seasons of the year. This could also be why leech therapy, people are using that. What's it doing? It's just drawing toxins out of an area. I think another approach to that, this is going to confuse some of you. Castor oil, I think, actually may be absorbed and bind to toxins in an area and carry them to your liver. It doesn't make you get rid of them. It just moves them from one area to your liver, which could reduce the symptoms in an area. You didn't get rid of anything. This is the key thing that people have to remember about detox. Until it's left your body, you haven't detoxed it. Until it has left your body. Pee, poop, sweat, breath. If it hasn't left, it's not detoxed. And your detox system in your liver, biotransformation can actually make things more toxic or less toxic as they go. Like carotenoids, the plant vitamin A is probably the least toxic of the vitamin A's. And as it gets detoxed or oxidized, it turns into retinoic acid, which is much more toxic. People go, why does the body do that? And I say, I don't know. Oh, Mr. Guy says, by the way, Doc, you're awesome. Thank you. You're very welcome. I mean, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so John says, Twitter live on the Apple operating system. When I switch apps to YouTube and then back to Twitter, the audio on the Twitter stream is dead. I can close it on Twitter and reopen the live stream, no sound. Well, John, John's asking, didn't see a live stream on Facebook either. Okay, so the live stream. So those of you who are on, let me go. Let me do this. It's my personal page on Facebook. This is not it. You want this one. This is my personal page. That's the one. That's the only one I could connect, or that's the one I decided to connect on Facebook, because personal pages, they're more organically seen, as the business pages are not. So yeah, the Nutrition Detective. That's my personal page. And that's where the stream is going. So okay, Matt is asking, how do you take magnesium? He's asking Hope, but how do you take magnesium and zinc without stirring up copper? I feel like I'm moving at a snail's pace with magnesium and zinc to avoid copper side effects, and it's going nowhere. Matt, if you're here, now just so you guys know, I've known Matt since elementary school. We used to play basketball. I was the tall center and he was the shooting guard. So Matt and I have a very long history. We were very good buddies back then. Matt, send me a text, buddy. Send me a text. We'll fix it. We'll set up a chat. Okay. Oh yeah, Joe was saying the Facebook stream is to my personal page. Yes. Oh, and No Place Like Home is saying thank you so much. You're welcome. This is like, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who have been here a while, this is just a trial run, as it says in the title of it. This is just a trial run of our live streaming software, so I could get this picture here. Wait, does this look the same? No. So I could get the studies that I look up and all that, so I could show you what I'm actually showing you, so you can find it later. Okay, so Joe's saying comments don't make it work from Twitter into the live chat. Okay, so his math says the resolution is still low. Well, we'll work on it. Maybe we'll talk to Streamlabs about how to improve the resolution. So, okay, so Soil Food Web Warrior says the resolution seems better on Twitter now. It's better on YouTube too. It's a bit choppy at first. Okay, so let's see. Hope said, been doing this for 3 years and have decided copper is the devil's mineral. It's kind of like, I think there may be some stages where vitamin. So when you damage the liver, so that's the key thing to think of, is anything that damages the liver causes liver injury, and liver injury is a synonym for cholestatic liver disease, which means you are leaking toxic bile into your blood. So whenever anybody talks about don't hurt your liver, usually they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, that's a good concept, but they have no idea how not to do it, because then they're like, oh, take all these magical herbs and essential oils. And I'm like, those damage the liver. I could show you the research. And they go, oh, but they're natural. And it's like, no. But once you damage the liver and you slow down ALDH and you add a bunch of toxins to the body, any poison, any toxin or poison that comes in, you cannot get rid of it as fast. And you put more of it into your blood in the bile and you feel worse. But I'm beginning to wonder now when vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity just come together. Does one make the other worse and vice versa? I think so. It seems that I saw something posted by Will Neville in the network, and this is what's awesome about the network is there's something like 20. I looked the other day and there was like 2,800 people inside the Nutrition Detective Network, and I was like, wow. But so when we have people talking about it, Will's interpretation of a study was that copper in the liver can actually detox, or can inhibit. I'm sorry, copper in the liver can actually inhibit the removal of copper from the liver. Now I haven't looked into it in detail. I just saw it the other day and I was like, wow, that's cool. I'll have to come back to that. But man, you copper revolution people and you protocol people, if you find out you're wrong about copper, you're completely wrong about copper, you're effed. Like, you're going to have years and years of detoxing, because what we're finding now is we can get the vitamin A down. That takes, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, maybe longer for some people, but that's still 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. And now we've got people who have kind of gotten past the vitamin A thing and they've still got the copper problems. You people taking copper supplements or eating lots of, foods that are really high in copper, we don't really know yet how long it takes to get that all the way down. We've had people get it down. We've seen people with really low copper and they're doing better and better. But don't get that low copper by poisoning yourself with zinc, because you can overdo zinc. Don't be dumb with your zinc. Okay, so David's seeing me on Facebook Live. Okay, so Ryan, here we go. Ryan's question. Do I still like the zinc and copper in ratio, or do you push copper down as low as possible? Copper must serve some purpose if it's unavoidable in food. That doesn't mean, no. Copper being unavoidable in food doesn't mean, like, certain plants, as a woman named Carolina on Twitter is going into, like, wheat just so happens to be a really good remediator of the soil, and it pulls arsenic up really well. So we're finding now that wheat may be part of the arsenic problem in the modern world. Soy pulls arsenic up really well out of the soil. Is that a problem? Possibly. But, here's the thing you have to assume. Plants don't want to be eaten. The plant itself. Okay, so I want you to think about this. The plant itself. So when people say, but apples and oranges and bananas, they want to be eaten. Here's the key thing about a fruit, folks. A fruit, if you take the fruit off the tree or you pick the fruit up off the ground, you didn't kill the tree. And you're eating the seeds of the plant so that then you can go poop them out. Why are fruits sweet? So animals eat them. Why do they have to be sweet? Because if they weren't sweet, they wouldn't cover up the bitter taste of all the plant poisons in them. How can you tell more poisonous fruits? The brighter and stronger the colors. That's the more poisonous fruits. Just imagine like orange flavor with no sweetness to it. It's not good. Like lemon oil, you're not going to just take lemon oil drops on your tongue. It doesn't taste good. Why do you make lemonade? Because lemon juice by itself doesn't really taste good unless you dilute it enough. Okay? So, do I still like zinc to copper in ratio? I don't really. We are pushing out into new areas of medicine. As I just mentioned, we're not trying to force, like we could force copper down very easily. You just take a bunch of zinc, you take a bunch of selenium, you take a bunch of molybdenum, you eat an all muscle meat, red meat diet. You could do that. You could cause yourself molybdenum toxicity, you could cause yourself selenium toxicity, you could cause yourself zinc toxicity, and you could get we've had someone with a copper level in their blood of 7. Legit lab test with a copper level in their blood of 7. This person is a very unique specimen in terms of how they react to things. I would not have people do what she does because she's unique, and so she keeps in contact with me about what she's doing. But we don't just purposely force down copper. The better thing to do, as this is the saying of the poison always wins, like we can stir up copper, as I say, you can take zinc and kick copper out of the liver. You can take molybdenum and kick copper out of the liver. You can take selenium and kick copper out of the liver. That copper just came out of the liver into the bile. What if you're leaking bile into the blood? Well, you may have just put more copper into your blood, and then you don't feel good. Your liver may be a little better off, but your blood isn't because you're leaking. So, I'll give you some of the guidelines. What's my first goal on blood tests is the first ratio goal is I absolutely on blood tests want to see your plasma zinc above a higher number than your serum copper. That's the first thing. So is that a ratio? Yeah, I want to see your plasma zinc level higher than your serum copper. Hair test is a little more complicated. But do I look at the ratio? No, I'm usually looking at, so ratios are, we're going to do a little math thing here. So for those of you who don't like math, you can turn back on in a second, whatever. This is not that complicated to math. A ratio is made up by taking one number and dividing it by another number, right? To get the zinc to copper ratio, you divide zinc by copper. It gives you a number. You have that number. Now, some people in the hair analysis world and some people in the blood analysis world, they look at it and they go, we have to fix that ratio. That ratio is what's causing you problems. And I'm like, okay. You can use ratios to kind of give you an idea of what people's symptoms look like. Sure. But you could have a perfect ratio with terrible levels. Let's say you had low zinc and low copper, but their ratio was great. Or you had super high zinc and super high copper, but their ratio is great. Well, do you want to fix those? Of course you do. If you looked only at the ratio, you'd be like, well, everything's great there. We don't have to do anything about that. That's fine. Well, the person's like, one of the things the body will do is when copper is really high is it will put more zinc in the blood to protect you. But let's say you have a good ratio, you still have a copper problem. So we need to work on the copper problem. And why is the zinc high? Because it's coming out of your tissues. It's probably like a loss pattern, like you're losing zinc in an effort to protect you from the copper. So what do you need? You actually need more zinc, even though your zinc might be high. But if you don't work with somebody who understands this, you could get zinc toxicity if they decide to push things too hard. So this is where we look at the levels as I don't even go over ratios on consults anymore. I get really different results than a lot of the hair analysis people out there because I do things like in many ways diametrically opposed, as in the exact opposite of what they do. I don't do that on everything, but on most things, I do. But I mean, so your argument, Ryan, or your statement, Ryan, copper must serve some purpose if it's unavoidable in food. Absolutely not. That doesn't mean, I mean, it can serve a purpose, like things can be toxic. Like mercury, when people talk about trace minerals and all, you know, these plants have 72 minerals in them, and this trace minerals has 72 minerals in them, and sea salt, unrefined, has 84 minerals in it. How many minerals do you think are actually essential? It's probably like, I haven't counted, and I don't even think it's this high, but let's just say 20 minerals were absolutely essential. What's the other 52 or 64 minerals? They're not essential. If they were essential, they'd have to put them in dog food, right? Or else you couldn't have dogs living 10, 12, 14, 16 years. If they were missing some magical trace mineral that they had to have in their dog food that you couldn't find on the label. So the idea of trace minerals being a lot of the trace minerals being necessary for life is a bunch of crap. Can minerals just be toxic? Sure, mercury. Somebody always wants to say, well, why is vitamin A in food if it's not good for us? Well, mercury can be in food, and lead can be in food, and arsenic can be in food, and cadmium can be in food, and it doesn't mean these things can't be toxic. Now, the copper thing, is copper necessary? People say that vitamin A is necessary, and I've shown that in the research, and I've shown that in people that that's not true. So then you start going, what else is BS? Copper could be BS. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it very well could be. It's like vitamin K. Vitamin K, copper and vitamin K, I still hedge my bets on. Because most quinones are not that good for us. And vitamin K falls into that category. So vitamin K is like, I still use vitamin K with people. Don't make any decisions based on what I just said there. But copper we definitely don't use. And we don't push it in foods. So okay, Brian says, I asked on Twitter mobile. Okay, so it didn't come through. Yeah, it didn't come through, Brian. He says, I'm grateful when I wake up with my mouth closed. Sometimes I wake up mouth open and dry. What makes the biggest difference? Well, breathing through your mouth is going to dry out your mouth. And one thing to know is if you are a mouth breather, folks, mouth breathing will dry out your saliva. The biggest thing that keeps your mouth healthy is having enough saliva. And they actually showed in Accutane studies that they got more cavities from Accutane, which is a form of vitamin A. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. I saw on Twitter, somebody said retinoic acid or Accutane is a derivative of vitamin A. Accutane is one of the forms of vitamin A. It's not a derivative of vitamin A. It's one of the active forms of vitamin A. They try to act like, oh, it's different than vitamin A, and we need vitamin A, and we don't need Accutane. No, they're trying to tell you, modern nutritional science is trying to tell you that Retin-A and Accutane and alitretinoin, which is a chemotherapy drug, retinoic acid, they're trying to tell you that those are the active forms of vitamin A, and those are what you need to do vitamin A's actions in the body. Retinol doesn't do anything, according to them. There's no retinol receptors, according to them. And I've shown that the receptor thing is bullshit too. There are no receptors for vitamin A. I went over all that, 5 or 6 live streams ago. So, one of the biggest side effects of all medications out there, dry mouth. But what can I tell you? Like, what do I know personally for me will make me tend to, if you start snoring, you're probably breathing through your mouth, right? It doesn't guarantee it. It's just more likely. If you're snoring real good, you're breathing through your mouth. What do I know from my past and from other people who have shared rooms with me? What do I know causes me to snore and breathe through my mouth? Well, alcohol does, and wheat. So what do you think the combination of beer does to my sleeping? It's awful. But that's the big thing with generally toxins are going to cause. We were looking into sleep apnea. I talked about it. And sleep apnea happens, and I do tend to think it happens more in overweight people, but it does also happen in underweight people. And what do we think there's the connector between there? Well, it's liver damage and toxicity. Now, can you do things to keep your mouth closed? You can tape your mouth. I mean, first you'd want to think of what's affecting your nose. You're breathing through your nose. What's causing you to not be able to breathe through your nose so that you're breathing through your mouth? Well, allergic reactions, things that you eat, things that make you get really mucousy, like dairy, maybe, alcohol, gluten, could be vitamin A, could be all sorts of things that make it hard for you to breathe through your nose. Or if you're in a season, if you still have seasonal allergies because you're still vitamin A toxic and you have seasonal allergies going on and you can't breathe through your nose, then you'll breathe through your mouth. So I've shown before the relationship in the research between vitamin A and childhood allergies. It's dead on. But those are the things. You can tape your mouth, but if you can't breathe, here's the thing about mouth taping. If you can't breathe through your nose well, you do mouth taping, you're going to feel like you're drowning at night. I'm not against mouth taping. I'll actually probably talk about it somewhat in the next, and sometime in the next couple of live streams. If I forget, people feel free to remind me. But yeah, it can be toxicity causing you not to breathe well through your nose. It can be a type of allergic reaction. Could be just patterns that people have gotten used to. Yeah. Truth Blast Broadcasting says, he did a super chat. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. Says, I have a bald spot that is growing. Is it due to vitamin A and blood detox, or do I think it is malondialdehyde? Okay. The thing I want to emphasize to everybody about hair loss, hair graying. It's been said before that people have had their hair turn gray from basically getting scared witless. I'm not going to use the other word, but scared witless one time. Like they got so scared that then basically after that event, their hair turned gray. Like it didn't turn gray right away, but it turned gray over as the hair grew out, it grew gray. So you can get so scared that your hair can then turn gray after that. What is that? What do you think that implies versus, so let's say Truth Blast Broadcasting. Do you follow a lot of, I don't know, news that is about people conspiring together, secret plans? So if you, let's say we lived in the time of today and there's all the fear porn and there's all the propaganda and there's all the disinformation and there's all the controlled opposition. And if people kind of, let's say, marinate in fear all day, is it going to affect them? I mean, think about the people who used to work, like, you remember you heard about the people at Facebook who had to like screen the flag stuff and they were quitting because the trauma was too much of watching all that all day. I mean, that's what it does to people. You cannot do that and not have it affect you. So in terms of stress, and we all know that it's been said that people lose hair from stress. So first of all, in today's world, we can't just deny the fact, like okay, I'm going to put it this way. And I'm not saying this is you, but if somebody was just, let's say, like I have a family member who just scrolls Instagram all day and they scroll it's just I look at it and I go, this is just poison for your brain, because they're scrolling like it's clickbait. It's conservative stuff, but it's clickbait fear porn. And they just scroll this stuff for hours a day. And they wonder why their mood sucks and why they're losing hair. And I'm going, the poison always wins. So you can't out-supplement. Like if you're putting poison in your brain all the time, you can't out-supplement that. If you're pushing detox too hard and you're pushing to, it's the thing about this. If there was fear and you're pushing detox too hard, or the fear is stress causes bile dumping. So as you're still leaking bile, if you let's say, I mean, and this, you actually get sometimes more sensitive to this as you go through detox stages. If you're pushing detox too hard and you're stressing yourself out or watching a bunch of fear stuff, then it's going to affect, it can be a compounding effect. That's why we say this is not a game. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. People who try to push, everybody thinks they're going to be the one who pushes things really hard and they're not going to have the problems. And I'm like, come and find me when you find out that that's not going to work out. Everybody thinks they found the little missing piece that I didn't find. And I go, okay, well, maybe it's possible. There's something that I'm going to look into and try myself, but I'm not going to talk about it again until I do it. Because there's things about it that seem sketchy. But I'm very open-minded and I'll go try it. But do I think it's malendialdehyde? If it's malendialdehyde, that's aldehydes. You want to, what helps your ALDH run? Well, putting in less aldehydes, so getting your selenium levels right, testing, getting your molybdenum levels right, testing, making sure you're not taking too much zinc, because zinc is necessary for alcohol dehydrogenase. So if you run alcohol dehydrogenase too fast, that makes aldehydes. And if you have a slow ALDH, then it just bangs up against it. So too much zinc could push things too hard. This is why we test, we don't guess. Could it be calcification of the scalp? That's the ivory dome theory. You can look that up. So it could be calcification of the scalp. It could be malendialdehyde. It could be, I'm beginning to think that certain things may get deposited in the scalp and they don't escape. Certain toxins may get deposited in the scalp. And I'm working on theoretical stuff right now to help move that along. Okay, so Daisy Bake says, I did read Grant's Statin article. Thank you for your answer, Dr. Smith. You are welcome. You are welcome. Ryan gave another super chat. Is ferritin linked to inflammation? Can red meat increase it? Taking NDL, I think you mean NDLF, nutrition detective lactoferrin, low vitamin A diet, and blood draws to lower it. Want to correct the biggest influence. Okay. Here's the question about ferritin. Ferritin is said to indicate how much vitamin A or how much iron you have stored in your liver. Okay. You know how you get rid of... So ferritin is an iron-binding protein. Okay. Ferritin is excreted in the bile. Goodness gracious. Biliary excretion of iron and ferritin. We conclude that biliary secretion of ferritin occurs in humans and that both iron and ferritin excretion are enhanced in liver iron overload. The apparently limited capacity of biliary iron excretion may be of importance for the hepatic iron accumulation in hemochromatosis. Oh, they're saying that if you... Wait, I want you to understand that last sentence. If you can't get rid of iron fast enough through your bile, it may be of importance for the accumulation of iron within your liver. So let's say you get rid of iron via the bile, and that's the really important way you get rid of it. And let's say you were leaking bile into your blood that has ferritin and iron in it. And then we see ferritin go up in the blood. So could ferritin be an indicator potentially of cholestasis, toxic bile leaking into the blood? Let's just go do this. Serum, bile, ferritin. I've probably looked this up before. I don't think I found anything in it because I'm not remembering anything about it. What is STBA? Bile acid concentrations. Oh, I think that's serum total bile acids. I think that's what that's supposed to be. So they're saying chronic hepatitis C, the liver's not working very well. Serum total bile acids were lower in controls than patients. So the sick people, chronic hepatitis C, had more bile in their blood than the normal people. Are we surprised? No. The bile is going the wrong way into their blood. A significant correlation between serum total bile acids and ferritin was found. Apparent value to predict the absence of a sustained response was calculated by combining elevated ferritin and serum total bile acids or individual bile acid species at different cutoff values. So they're saying the best degree of certainty was obtained using serum total bile acids of greater than 15 micromoles. That's a pretty high serum total bile acids from what I recall. So it makes sense that the higher the bile acids in the blood, and then it really starts correlating with the ferritin. So do you see what I'm saying? Ferritin is most likely an indicator of high ferritin of cholestasis. Now, it doesn't mean if you have chronically low ferritin, like what I think this means is like your bile is stuck in your liver and it's not coming out. So there's these different theories of where the bile is going. And then as we fix people's livers, we see their ferritin start to climb up towards more normal levels, which I still want fairly low. I want ferritin between 30 to 70. So, is ferritin linked to inflammation? If more ferritin in your blood meant more toxic bile leaking into your blood, then I would say it's linked to inflammation. I did a post on Twitter the other day about Plato and how Plato used to talk about the bile and how it's connected to all sorts of tumors in the body. And vitamin A has been shown in the research over and over to increase iron levels in the blood. So all these people doing their protocol, taking a bunch of vitamin A and constantly trying to fight their iron overload, well, they're shooting themselves in the foot. So nutrition detective lactoferrin. Now, just so you know, nutrition detective lactoferrin lactoferrin in general can increase bile production. We just went over that at the very start of this, where bile can actually be made by the bile duct epithelium. The lining of the bile ducts can actually make certain bile acids. Well, one of the things we have research on with lactoferrin is lactoferrin increases the turnover rate in a good way, the new cholangiocytes, the new bile duct cells coming up. So that may be how lactoferrin increases the bile production that we see in some people where they can't take lactoferrin because it seems to create too much bile in them all of a sudden. That may be the mechanism. So just watch with the lactoferrin that you read the article that I link on the bottle about how to start slowly on it. Don't want to go too fast. That can definitely, starting too fast with lactoferrin, for those of you out there who have done this, you may want to comment. It can really push things too hard and make you not feel good. But on the other hand, lactoferrin is called by researchers the miracle molecule because it helps so many things. So is all this stuff connected to bile? Yes, it's a poison on the way in. It's a poison on the way out. So this means getting rid of toxic bile is important to get your health back. Getting the toxic bile to stay where it's supposed to stay is really important. But not dumping too much bile when you're leaking too much is really important too, so you don't feel bad. Everybody wants health, getting your health back to just be simple and easy. And it's just not, because we've been poisoned from so many different angles. It's just not that easy. I wish it were easy. So, but yeah, the low vitamin A diet is important. We haven't found, okay, so here's a cool thing. Except in rare people, we have not found like the typical, internet approaches. They're like, you have to take calcium supplements with your meals, and you have to only eat red meat once a week or less, and you have to do all, take IP6 and do all this stuff. We don't have to do that. If you just avoid vitamin A and you get some soluble fiber and you start getting your bile going the right direction, you can do charcoal too. Funny thing, charcoal, let's do activated carbon adsorb iron, PubMed. Ferrous sulfate adsorption by activated charcoal. This is usually what they supplement people with. This is what you pregnant ladies probably got from your doctor. These results indicate that activated charcoal may prove an effective therapy for acute iron poisoning. Charcoal likes to bind to stuff in the bile. So, but yeah, so the blood draws, I typically give people advice on how many blood draws they can do in a 6-month period based on their ferritin levels. I do that in my consults. So if you wanted to, that's people will take good advice and twist it all sorts of ways. So I'm very cautious with giving blood draw advice. Protocol people just tell people to keep going in and donating blood until they're anemic, basically, because they don't test their blood. They only test their hair. If you are doing blood draws based on hair testing, you are lost. If you do it alone, hair testing iron is worthless. It's almost worthless. Every tool is good for for certain jobs. Hair testing is not good for testing all the minerals. Blood testing is not good for testing all the minerals. You don't try to hammer in a nail with a screwdriver. You use the right tool for the right job in the right context. This desk shakes a little bit. I got a new desk, and if I get a little too excited, it starts looking like an earthquake. It's not an earthquake here, folks. It's just me being passionate. So Adam was saying, I'm pretty sure I have cadmium poisoning from drinking all those energy drink cans. Then my tinnitus started. Or yeah, as Truth Blast said, or aluminum. Yeah. That could be cadmium, definitely. So here's a funny thing. I don't know if I've shown you guys this. Let's go find cadmium fish. What's the word I need to look for? It's about how they smell. Is this the fish study? So cadmium exposure is associated with perceived taste dysfunction. And I had a fish study on this too. Here, this is probably it. Short exposure to cadmium disrupts the olfactory, that's the smelling system of zebrafish. Okay, so we now have cadmium connected to smell problems, right? You copper toxicity, you people pushing copper, boy, you're in for a big wake up again. Transcriptional basis of copper-induced olfactory impairment. Copper negatively affects your sense of smell. It's shown in fish. So let me just take this back to that little viral problem that was going around. That little viral problem that was locking everybody down. It's a massive bile dump. What do you dump in your bile? Toxic stuff that's stored in the liver. Like, and I've shown this before, cadmium is stored in your liver and copper is stored in your liver. So let's just say something came around that caused everybody to dump a bunch of bile and they were all leaking it into their blood. And you start frying your nasal olfactory receptors, your smell receptors in your nose. You're frying it with, I mean, we can go and, I mean, does somebody need this? Let's do cadmium bile PubMed. Cadmium concentrations in human liver, blood, and bile. You get rid of cadmium through your bile. You get rid of copper through your bile. If the bile goes back into your blood too much and it fries your olfactory, your sense of smell receptors, you lose your sense of smell. What protects you against cadmium and copper? What's that big mineral? Zinc. Is zinc deficiency associated with? Let's do zinc deficiency smell PubMed. So I want to show you that this is all connected. Smell taste alteration in certain viral conditions may reflect zinc deficiency. It is. It's been known for a very long time that your sense of smell, and remember, your sense of smell is 90% of your sense of taste. 90% of your sense of taste comes from your sense of smell. So they can both be traced back to the same problem. Zinc protects you against cadmium and copper. Cadmium and copper toxicity cause smell problems. Do you see how it's all connected? That's that. So, right. So Adam Eden was saying, Mr. Elon's in the cabal. Soil Food Web Warrior is saying, you mean the guy who's going to put computer chips in our heads isn't a hero of freedom? No, he's not. No. It's amazing how many people cannot catch on to these. They like all these people introducing things. I mean, and he was one of the World Economic Forum's like young leaders. Seriously. Okay, so Daisy Bakes says, my liver area hurts or spasms when she uses castor oil packs. It can happen. It's castor oil packs. I don't put it to you this way, y'all. How does soaking your liver area in an oil detox anything? Somebody answer me that. Where's what is the mechanism? Now, I was on a podcast that's going to come out soon. The woman said she had pain in like her ankle or something. I forget. She didn't say the exact area, I don't think. But she said she had some pain and she put a castor oil pack on it and the pain went away. Okay, I'm not going to deny that may have happened for her. That's not at all. I'm actually very curious about castor oil because it may move the poison around in the body. So she put a castor oil pack on her painful area, which I think was in her leg. And she said it went away. What did the castor oil do? Well, what have I learned about castor oil since I've been researching it? It's a solvent. It dissolves things into itself. It's an emulsifier, which means it can take fat-soluble poisons and make them water-soluble. And it's a very unique fatty acid ester, which means it may fit into slots that other fatty acid esters don't. Ricinoleate is the ester when it's bound to something. I just think that castor oil may be grabbing onto toxins in one area and allowing them to move in the blood to another area. But so Daisy Bakes, if you've already got a really toxic liver, and maybe if you don't tolerate dietary fats real well, or you're missing your gallbladder or whatever, and you try to throw more fats in there, it has nowhere to go. Or your liver starts trying to dump bile. It's like spasming to try to dump bile, and then you're getting symptoms. So basically, you guys can all say the magical advice with me, right? When something hurts, doc, it hurts when I do this. And my advice is, don't do that. I don't care what Edgar Casey said or what Everybody on the internet says castor oil packs, in my opinion, don't detox anything. There's no logical mechanism to it. They can bind to toxins and potentially move those toxins from the area. And if you had a big concentration of toxins and it moves it to another area, the problem area could get better. Does it mean the toxins left? No, it doesn't mean the toxins left at all. They just moved, which may be a good thing. I'll be honest, I got into the castor oil thing again because do I want anybody to take castor oil orally? No. Do not take castor oil orally. Don't. Stop, please. But I saw a guy on Twitter, and he was saying he was using castor oil to help with hair regrowth, and it seemed to be working. Well, I do believe that hair problems are toxicity in the area. Could somebody put castor oil on their scalp and see that maybe it absorbs toxins and moves them somewhere else, and then the hair is able to regrow? Does that make sense to me? Yeah, that makes sense. Is that everybody's problem? No, different people, I think, have different problems that cause their hair loss or hair thinning. So it's not, this is where everybody wants the same answer for the same problem. It's not, there can be multiple, like the smelling, right? Could be cadmium, could be copper, could it just be zinc deficiency? Sure. Cadmium and copper would deplete zinc. So could it be the zinc deficiency that's the problem? Maybe. Could it be the cadmium toxicity? Could it be the copper toxicity? Could it be all three of them together? Could be. It's not as simple as one thing. So Ryan, that's my castor oil thing. If, like I said, it's not detox. It doesn't mean if something's not detoxing something, it doesn't mean it's not good or that you can't use it. But it's not making anything leave the body. It may actually be. Think about this, and this is a problem that that there's a fair number of people in kind of the not helpful area of vitamin A detox world who don't understand that one way you can make people feel better is you can bind their toxins in the blood with things like choline and fatty acid esters and store them in the liver, and you can help people feel better short term. Eggs can do this. Egg yolks specifically. You can bind toxins and just shove them into the liver, and people feel better. Now, how could you find new slots to shove toxins in the liver? You could use a very unique fatty acid ester. Well, where else do you find ricinoleic acid? I don't know if you find it anywhere else other than castor beans. So you have this really unique oil that everybody's like, oh, it detoxes. I don't think it's detoxing. I think it's just shoving things into unique places in the liver. So let's say Daisy Bakes doesn't have these unique slots available anymore. So she tries the castor oil and it just makes things worse. Ryan, your girlfriend, does castor oil packs and she feels better. But if the problem's not going away, then it's not doing anything to make anything better. What's likely happening is those toxins again start leaking out of the liver after she hasn't done a castor oil pack for so long. And then she just shoves them back in there along with other new poisons. The goal would be to stop putting the poisons in, facilitate the removal of old stored toxins, and give the body the nutrients it needs. That's the basic approach. Oh, Truth Blast says toxins bind to fat for whatever reason, even caffeine. Oh, wait. Now I have to check this. Caffeine. I need to end this soon. Caffeine ester. Let me look. Truth Blast, if you know where you found that, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that it could happen. I just hadn't seen it. It's not caffeic acid. Those of you who are seeing this one, this is. I don't think this is what we're looking for. But this is an interesting thing. This is the bile acid receptor, FXR. But this is not caffeine. This is caffeic acid. This is different. But here's, while we're talking about caffeine, I posted on all you ladies out there drinking your coffee. Let me see if I can find, is this the paper? I don't think this is it. I don't think this is the one I want. So they're going to say here, decaf coffee, decreased total and free testosterone. Decaf coffee is toxic. Then you're not even getting the caffeine benefit. If you want to call it a benefit, you're not even getting the speedy benefit, but you're just, so in women, it decreased testosterone. And they're trying to say here that coffee, caffeinated coffee. So decaf coffee decreased total and free testosterone. Caffeinated coffee decreased total testosterone. Do we have a testosterone deficiency epidemic? And they didn't say anything about men, but do we have a testosterone deficiency epidemic in this world today, in this Western world? You know that like 90% of people drink caffeine weekly? Doesn't mean every day, but at least 90% of people drink caffeine weekly. And it's on every corner. It's in every, convenience store. It's in every grocery store. There's caffeine everywhere. All these people selling all their new pre-workouts. Like you can formulate your own pre-workout to sell people so they can take their legal speed for their workouts. Like it's just terrible. Anyway. So Lyubov Sarova says, is this a live chat? Looks like a regular comment. You're on Facebook. It is. It's technically a live chat. We see it here. Yeah. Wait, is it replaying it's replaying the chats? Okay, Truth Blast Broadcasting says, do all selenium smell or just the one I bought? Selenomethionine, which is the most common selenium supplement. Selenomethionine will have kind of a sulfur smell to it because methionine is considered a sulfur-containing amino acid. Now, you don't get to eat meat without eating methionine. So the amount of methionine in selenomethionine, and it's only like, 200 micrograms of selenium. So you're probably looking at micrograms of methionine. It's not, it's not the selenium that smells, I believe. I haven't smelled raw selenium. They do sell it, but it's the methionine in it. But yeah, that's kind of the sulfur smell. And I know people hear me talk a lot negative about sulfur, but if you're going to get your selenium, you got to get it somehow. And there's sulfur in a whole bunch of things. What you don't want to do is eat the crazy high sulfur things, and don't supplement big sulfur sources. But selenomethionine, I'm not concerned about. So let's see. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I want to get to all the super chat. Wait, what did that just do? What did that do? I just clicked a button and it just jumped around. Okay, here, Joe, do me a favor. 3 super chats waiting. Okay. Joe, do me a favor. The keeping up with the super chats is like super hard. So guys, please, no more super chats, especially you, Truth Blast Broadcasting. Thank you for all the super chats. Just, we got to wrap this up. We've been on here for like 2.5 hours now, maybe. So I gotta wrap this up. I'm really glad we had so many people show up. I'm glad it's working. I'm still new to this. Again, this is a trial run. But Joe, if you can copy paste the super chats into our private chat so I can make sure to get them. I'm going to go look through here. Well, I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to go backwards from the bottom up just to make sure that I don't miss anything. So here, I'm going backwards. So Truth Blast Broadcasting, super chat. Thanks again. Is my poor old grandma's smell ever going to come back from bile burn? 2, almost 3 years later, no smell. Recently tried charcoal, some zinc. Any thoughts? Well, I mean, definitely okay. The older someone is, the longer it's going to take to detox them, the slower their detox system is working. So I want you to understand when we're talking about the viral thing. And again, I don't know if I posted on Twitter the other day, there was a retracted paper that said that they could use 5G to assemble virus-like particles inside of cells. They could use 5G to assemble virus-like particles inside of cells. And then the paper was retracted. As I said in my post, I said I'd be amazed if it wasn't retracted. They can't leave that out there. It's like that one scientific paper on chemtrails. Oh, that was retracted. So you think they're going to let that out? Do you think they're ever going to say that vitamin A is toxic when they've been putting it in your goddamn food? They're never going to tell you. Or they'll put it out there and they'll be like, here it is, but we're going to say it's retracted. Because then all of our fact checkers can say that study was retracted. So they can lie to you without lying to you. They can tell you the truth, but they can deny it. So anyway, zinc is so it depends. So when the bile dump, that is the viral syndrome, when the bile dump happens, you have to think of when that happened, when people were sick, actively sick, not long stuff, not long viral problems. I'm going to explain what long viral problems are. The long viral problems are a different thing. But when people are sick, that is the flood of bile. The bile flood. So like if there was a big rain, right? Like as is happening around the world, weird. There's stories of long rains in certain books happening. It's very weird. When these big rains are happening and there's like months worth of water coming down in a day, the flood damage is happening. That is when your life is at risk the most, right? During a flood. I'm talking about a flood. Like that's when you could get washed away and you could die, or you could drown, or your car gets washed away, or whatever. That's the dangerous time. And at the time, the flood is doing tons of damage. But at that point, you're just really trying to survive. You're just trying to make it through the flood without dying. Okay? So you make it through the flood. The rains stop. The flood waters go away. Now what's left? There's no more water. I mean, there's still water, but there's no more flood waters. The damage is there. The flood damage remains. And then it's going to take months, maybe years, to rebuild the damage. So you have to understand that that's how you could have the sickness, and then you could have the leftovers, the long virus problems. The long virus problems are the flood damage. Now, let's just say the flood damage caused so many problems, your supply chains are broken. The all the Home Depots are flooded out and everything's damaged in there and you can't get materials to fix stuff. So if you don't have materials to fix stuff and you can't get materials to fix stuff, is the stuff ever going to get fixed? It's going to take a long time. And then let's say kind of like, I don't know, toxic cadmium or copper, you have looters running around continuing to cause problems. See how this analogy, I can just go with it. Zinc, you have to understand how long it can take to fix a zinc deficiency. Like trying zinc for a month may or may not be enough. Maybe the dose wasn't enough. Maybe your poor old grandma, and I'm just throwing this out there, I don't know anything about your grandma, but maybe your poor old grandma was a smoker for a long time. Maybe she still was a smoker. And I don't know this, and you don't have to answer it. But just as an example, well, what's in cigarettes? Lots of cadmium and lots of arsenic. What depletes your zinc? Cadmium and arsenic. And let's say grandma took some birth control, which causes an increase in vitamin A and copper, and you need zinc to protect yourself from vitamin A and copper. So let's just say you had somebody, like no women out there ever took birth control and smoked cigarettes at the same time to stay thin, did they? And now they're super toxic in cadmium, copper, vitamin A, and arsenic. And they're wondering, and this is not mocking, but they're saying, well, I tried zinc for a month and it didn't do anything. You're going to undo years of poisoning with a month of supplementing? Probably not. It takes a long time to refill zinc in most people, a long time. So this is how, like, is zinc probably part of the answer? Yeah. My mother, we were trying different things for her Parkinson's-like syndrome, which I absolutely believe is aluminum based now. We got a hair test back and her aluminum was really high, higher than it was before, but we're also doing detox stuff. But yeah, I think she's got tons of aluminum in her, like way more than I've ever seen in anybody. So anyway, we're working on that now. But this cadmium toxicity, if this is what's going on, it's just cadmium and copper and vitamin A and arsenic. This is going to take a lot. And then old people don't tend to absorb stuff very well. But if they were still smoking and they're like, I'm not quitting smoking, screw you. Well, can't do anything about that. So it's just, we would want to look at what are the toxins coming in, reduce those, help them get the toxins out. Charcoal would be one thing, soluble fiber is another. And then getting the nutrients they need in, and zinc would be one of those. So none of this was meant to like mock any of the approaches you do. It's just, it's refilling. So I was getting back to my mom. So my mom did some chelation, calcium EDTA, IV chelation. Never forget that chelators grab onto good minerals too. My mother, after those 10, they never test, almost none of the people who do chelation ever test good minerals because it's a crapshoot. Sorry, I was going to say it's a shite show afterwards. Because if you were to test your good minerals after you do chelation, they are horribly low. My mother had the lowest zinc level I have seen to date after her 10 chelation treatments. How long do you think that took to fix? It took a while. So never forget that pharmaceutical chelation stuff, EDTA, DMSA, grabs tons of good minerals at the same time. Okay. Oh, gosh. Let's see. So no more super chats, please, or I might miss them. I don't want to miss them. So I did that one. We did the ferritin, bald spot. I think we're good. Okay. I think we're good too. Oh, wait. Who is this? Yeah. Okay. So you did. Let's see. So if you guys are here and if you, okay, so here's what we're getting at. Facebook, I don't think, if you're on Facebook and you want to watch it there, that's cool. But if you want to see if you want to be in the more active chat or the super chats, you're probably going to want to come to YouTube for that, because YouTube's kind of where the super chats, YouTube's where the super chats are. I'm just checking to see that we got all the super chats. Joe says he thinks we did. We're going to be wrapping it up here. So if you guys want to, for those of you who don't know, my website, nutritiondetective.com, is the main website. That's where you can find out how to work with me directly or Nathan. If you want to do the Love Your Liver program, that's the do-it-yourself program. That's at members.nutritiondetective.com. We normally do this on Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's our normal time. We do it Arizona. I'm in Arizona. I say Pacific because it's just easier, because Arizona, we change times. Or we don't change our time like all you daylight savings people do. We don't have to change our clocks. It's amazing. There's a lot of stuff I like about Arizona. Not having to change my clocks is one. I have a hard enough time with my schedule anyway. Okay. I think we got them all. Okay. Joe, thank you again for hanging out with me through all of this. I didn't mean for it to be too long, but I guess I'm addicted to talking and answering questions. So I have a problem. Anyway, y'all have a great rest of your weekend. I'm going to have a good weekend. I get to go to a shooting competition tomorrow, and I get to go up to Phoenix and go watch the Arizona State Arm Wrestling Championships, and I have a good weekend planned. Anyway, y'all have a great weekend. I will see you next time. I'll put this up on YouTube. I think it came out pretty good. So y'all have a great weekend. Bye now.